So my case for theistic evolution is that the ages and names in Genesis are allegorical. So in the table of nations in Genesis, which had all the descendants of Noah, Shem, Japheth, and Ham, in that table, there were a lot of races rather than people. So, like, the Hebrew suffix im means like a race or a place, like a geographical location. A very evident example of this is with the person Mizraim, which the original form of the word in singular is Mazer, referring to Lower Egypt. This is found evident in 2 Kings 19:24, Isaiah 9:6, and Isaiah 35:25. So, if the singular form refers to one half of Egypt, then the second would refer to the second half. So, since names in the Bible usually come from what the person did within their life, this isn't a very accurate example per se. It would be more or less split. A split of actions that's impossible to have within a person. So, like, Israel meant struggled with God. That's why Jacob was given that name. So if this is applied to everyone in the Bible, then Mizraim means that they were both conflicted with themselves as a united whole, because this referred to Egypt, conflicted with himself, and also, like, just a united whole. It wouldn't make any sense. And since im also means since im also means race or geographical location, this can be even further exemplified. Another example of this is actually with his descendants, called the Ludim or the Lubim, which were his descendants, and also had the suffix im in their name. And they're also translated as Libyans, which are included among the totality of enemies among the Pharaoh. So what I'm basically saying is that you can't split natures between a person. It's an impossibility. There's also another case with Lehabim, which can also have the same thing of the same situation with Lubim applied, because Lehabim is basically the same, but Lubim is sometimes seen as a mistranslation of Libya, and sometimes it's seen as Nubia or another nation. So if you're not willing to take up the first perspective, the second regarding Lehabim instead can also fit it. So this is also evident for other nations like Havilah, which is the name of an early tribe, Kittim, which is a name for the westward maritime lands, and Magog, a name for the northern regions of Asia, also serving as a name for the Scythians. The most common example where the suffix im was used in the Table of Nations is under the genealogy of Mizraim himself, son of Ham, which goes from Mizraim, Ludim or Lubim, Anamim, Lehabim, Naphtuhim, Pathrushim, Kaphtorim, Kasluhim, and Philistine. This can also be observed using the genealogy of Javan. The genealogy of Javan, son of Japheth, contains two definite races and goes from Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. So the answer would be, because I have a question right here in the PDF, the answer to this question would be that this isn't a one-off moment where it happens. Like, the case of Mizraim isn't a one-off moment where someone's name is allegorical. It's actually a very common occurrence, but it's one time where it's very evident. So if this person is rather a nation, the ages applied can't be how they're written as. Because if ages are written as like simply the lifetime of a person, like the longest age in the Bible is less than 1,000 years, but many empires, many nations last longer than that, way longer. So we can obviously notice that since Methuselah, the person who lived the longest in the Bible, only lived 969 years, that this probably, and I'm putting an emphasis on probably, but this is most likely allegorical because nations survive for much, much longer than just less than 1,000 years. Most of the time, the people in the Bible, like the people I'm talking about, like in the Table of Nations, lived way less than 969. So it's made evident here that ages in the Bible are symbolic, and so are names. And so, since some people's names are allegorical and their ages are allegorical, that means that it means that their descendants are also, like, their names and ages can likewise be allegorical, because the entire chronology is messed up by just one person being allegorical, because you can't trace how many years they lived. I can also make another video about Psalms 94 and 2 Peter 3:8 in relation to theistic evolution, but that's it for now.